Have you all here? Are there any people outside? Oh, shows the transition or the composition of the Shekhari Shikhara. Just play that. Yeah. See the Mula Shrunga and the Uru Shrungas added to it, and then the other miniature Shikharas added to the scene. So it's all basically Latina Shikharas and their different diminishing versions. These kind of things give us hint towards how the shrines could have looked like. But the earliest extant structural temples in India date back to some 5th, 6th century AD. And these examples come from different regions of India. So there is this UP MP region, the border region of UP and MP. Then there is this Nagpur region of Maharashtra. Then Saurashtra, northern regions of Karnataka, basically Badami, Aihole and Pattadakal. This region of Tamil Nadu, northern regions of Tamil Nadu, and the Orissa, Bhubaneswar, Odisha region. Okay, so these are the five or six different regions from which we get the earliest extant examples of Indian temples. Now it is interesting to see how they look like. Okay, now this is the Dashavatara temple at Devgarh in Uttar Pradesh. Can be dated to 5th, 6th century. A very simple structure, basically a boxy looking structure, in fact, right? Dr. Padigar actually gave me this as an example. It actually boasts, the Sthapati himself is boasting of his own capacity or capabilities, right? What he's saying is that in the entire Jambudvipa, in the art of Jambudvipa is the region of Bharat. In the art of building temples, an expert equaling Narasobba is the name of the Sthapati, there has been none in the past, na bhuto na bhavishyati, basically. So he himself had initiated. So this is also an interesting example because the temple's construction was conceptualized, initiated, and entirely finished by by a sthapati himself. There was no external, what we can say, no external entity involved for funding the entire project. He himself has done that. So that is also an interesting example. And the same person has also in Aihole itself, the same person had also cut a rock cut temple at the same place. So he's working on the structural, the built temples as well as the rock cut temples. So that is also interesting.
Where is this place?
Aihole. This is the Huchchapayya Gudi complex. So I'm actually grateful to Dr. Padigar for pointing this out to me. Oh my God. सांगते. ओके. सो हे मी मराठी हे मी मगाशी एक्सप्लेन केलं तसं वास्तुपुरुष मंडळ जसं असतं तशा टाईपमध्ये त्यांनी स्क्वेअरमध्ये हा सगळा ग्रीड तयार केला आहे आधी. सो हे जे 16 स्क्वेअर्स आहेत त्यातले मधले ते सिलेक्ट केले, ते म्हणजे झालं गर्भगृह, म्हणजे ज्याच्यात इमेज असणार, मूर्ती असेल. त्याच्यानंतर हा जो आहे हा वॉल थिकनेस, म्हणजे वॉल आणि गर्भगृह यांच्या मधली जागा जी पोकळ जागा असते ती आहे. तर हा जो सगळ्यात बाहेर आलेला प्रोजेक्शन आहे ज्याला आपण भद्र म्हणतो, सो हे कसं डिसाईड करायचं, हे किती बाहेर येणार ह्याच्यापासून, तर ह्या स्क्वेअर्सचा हा सगळा खेळ आहे. म्हणजे 2 स्क्वेअर्स बाहेर भद्र येणार. म्हणजे त्याच्यानंतर भद्राची विड्थ किती घ्यायची, हे गर्भगृहाची विड्थ किती आहे त्याच्यावर अवलंबून आहे. म्हणजे गर्भगृहाची जेवढी विड्थ असेल त्याच्या हाफ विड्थ म्हणजे भद्र. त्यामुळे आता हे 4 स्क्वेअर जर का गर्भगृह असेल तर 2 स्क्वेअरचे भद्र झाले. एका स्क्वेअरचा झाला प्रतिरथ आणि दुसऱ्या 1.5 एवढ्या साधारण प्रपोर्शनचा झाला कर्ण. सो हा एक डिसाईड झाला. सो हे इथे रेप्लिकेट केलं ऍक्च्युअल कन्स्ट्रक्शन. म्हणजे आता हे जे 2 ब्लॉक्स आहेत ते गर्भगृहाची एक साईड झाली. सो त्याच्या हाफ आपल्याला भद्र करायचं असेल तर एक ब्लॉक त्यामुळे भद्र झाला. तर आता इथे मी प्रतिरथ ऍड केलेत अजून त्याला. सो ह्या अशा क्लॉकवाईज वेगवेगळ्या स्टेप्स आहेत कन्स्ट्रक्शनमध्ये, की मी भद्र ऍड केलं, मग मी प्रतिरथ ऍड केले 2, मग कर्ण ऍड केले साईडला 1.5 साधारण आले, आणि ही अख्खी वॉल उभी राहिली ह्या साईड. सो सिमिलरली ते एक एक मोल्डिंग एकावर रचून ते मंदिर उभं राहिलं. आणि हा जो मधला भाग आहे पोकळ, म्हणजे इथे पुन्हा गर्भगृहाची भिंत येणार आतली. सो हा जो पोकळ भाग आहे ह्याच्यामध्ये दगडधोंडे टाकायचे, जस्ट ऍक्च्युअल दगडधोंडे, म्हणजे ग्रॅव्हल, put the gravel inside. आणि दिस एंटायर थिंग इज डन विदाउट युजिंग एनी सिमेंटिंग मटेरियल. म्हणजे जस्ट इंटरलॉक, म्हणजे आता हे 2 असतील आपल्याला एकमेकांमध्ये सांधायचं तर ह्याचा थोडा भाग कट करायचा, याचा थोडा भाग पुढे येईल, म्हणजे ते इंटरलॉक होतील एकमेकांमध्ये. सो म्हणजे जस्ट इमॅजिन द अमाउंट ऑफ कॅल्क्युलेशन्स दे फर्स्ट हॅव टू डू. म्हणजे ऑब्वियसली इवन टुडे द आर्किटेक्ट्स नीड टू डू दॅट, बट इट्स डिफिकल्ट विथ द अमाउंट ऑफ technology which they had at that time. And then you have this temple. This is actually a replica of Jagannath Puri's temple. So these terminologies can't actually apply here because, as I said, the original terminologies are different. Here the Mula Prasad is called as Devuda, or the Mandapa is called as Jagamohana. Right? But not to complicate the matters, I have just put the same labels right now. And this is just a representative example.
ते कशात लिहिलेलं आहे, म्हणजे these techniques are they mentioned anywhere?
In ancient texts or ancient exactly. So all these Vastu Shastra, Shilpa Shastras deal with these kind of specifications.
Detailing, all the detailing.
The only thing is that sometimes it becomes difficult for us to understand, to reinterpret them, and that's why many scholars who are also architects have worked on this, and that's how we get to know.
हा देऊळ म्हणजे फक्त वरचा भाग का?
नाही, हा अख्खा, म्हणजे जे हा भाग आहे जिथे गर्भगृह असतं ते अख्खं भागाला ते देऊळ म्हणतात.
अच्छा. आणि उरलेल्या भागाला,
आणि उरलेला हा जो मंडप आहे पुढचा तो जगमोहन. आणि आता जगन्नाथपुरीला मी म्हटलं तसं अजून मंडप नंतरच्या काळात ऍड होत गेले. म्हणजे आता इथे नाट्यमंदिर, जे नृत्य करण्यासाठी म्हणून एक वेगळा मंडप ऍड झाला, भोग देवाला चढवण्यासाठी म्हणून वेगळा मंडप ऍड झाला. सो हे असे वेगवेगळे कॉम्प्लिकेटेड होत गेलं, म्हणजे असं एक सिम्पल ह्याच्यापासून खूप जास्त कॉम्प्लेक्स असं.
अच्छा.
already discussed a few of those temples yesterday and even today. But just to give you an evolution and the journey of the temple, because we are in Maharashtra, we come across the temples in Maharashtra very often. So it is necessary to have this particular perspective in mind. So we have already discussed this, right? Can you tell me the shape, the name, the term which is applied for the shape?
गजपृष्ठ.
Gajaprashtha. So this one is from Te. So these are some of the earliest extant structural temples in Maharashtra. Then from the region of Nagpur, built during the Vakataka dynasty, the temples at Ramtek. We have already seen these two temples yesterday. This one is another temple from Nagara in the same region of Vidarbha. Now these two are the temples which have been unearthed through excavations at Paitan, and the scholars have variously dated it from, let's say, 3rd century BC till 5th 6th century CE. Now we all know the Kailashnath temple at Ellora, and we have also spoken about the technique, which is this is the rock cut temple and not a structural temple. Now, as in many other parts of India, it's especially from the 11th century onwards that we actually see the extant specimens of temples, most of the temples in Maharashtra. And the earliest datable example or the datable specimen of the temple is the temple at Ambarnath, because it has the inscription, and we have already spoken about that inscription. So just an overview of how the journey has been, how the temple form, the temple plan has become complicated. So the left hand side you have the plan of the Keval Narsimha temple at Ramtek in Nagpur, which is around 5th century. And on the right hand side you have the temple at Ambarnath with many offsets, with Antarala added, with the Mukhamandapas added on 3 sides. So this is the whole journey of the temple. Now, very interesting aspect of temples in Maharashtra is that we all know that Maharashtra is situated at the crossroads, and therefore we have specimens from almost all varieties of temple architecture, which we discussed yesterday. So there are mostly what happens is that in Maharashtra, especially from 11th century, 12th century onwards, Bhumija is the most preferred mode, and that lingers on till 13th 14th century, and the replications can also be seen even later during the Maratha period. But at the same time, there are examples of the Latina, there are examples of Shekhari, there are examples of, let's say, some kind of use of Dravida edicules or Dravida elements in Maharashtra. And this is a very interesting feature of the temples in Maharashtra, which can't be ignored. So this one is one of the examples of the Latina, Mukteshwar temple at Sinnar. So Sinnar, we also discussed Gondeshwar temple yesterday. So Sinnar actually has very 4-5 different temples. Then the Shekhari, another temple from Deuri Karad in Nashik district. Okay, now I have labeled it as Karnataka Dravida or Vesara, but we discussed yesterday that this term is very debatable. So what I want to point out is that this is another temple from Sinnar itself. So we have seen Gondeshwar temple, which is Bhumija yesterday. This one is Latina, again from Sinnar. So the same place has temples built in different, using different systems or using different styles as such. So there is Latina, and then there is something which is closer to Dravida. So I'm not going to go into details because this is very intricate and complex, but the system we can make out is more akin to the Dravida system. And then proliferation of Bhumija temples. You have examples from Zodge, Balsane, then the Gondeshwar at Sinnar. So this is the speciality of the temples in Maharashtra, that they are not sticking to one particular form. They keep on experimenting with forms of the temples. And another feature is that because they are at crossroads, they share features with the surrounding regions, especially the border regions have features similar to the surrounding region. So for example, this is a very good example. These are the temples at Markandi in Gadchiroli district. So look at the pattern. I mean, if you observe the temples at Khajuraho or in Chhattisgarh carefully, this pattern of having 3 layers in Janga, 3 tiers in Janga, it visually also looks very similar to that. So these kind of things happen because of the geographical proximity. And you might feel that I'm repeating this point again and again, but it is important that how people connect with each other, keep on interacting with each other. We get an idea about all these things. Again, style wise also, there is a difference. So this particular sculpture is from southern parts of Maharashtra, has more is more akin to the regions of Karnataka, and there is a difference in the way the same female figure is shown in northwestern Maharashtra. It's a very slender, and the style is more akin to the temples in Gujarat. Now, another interesting phase in the temples in Maharashtra is the post 13th century temples, and I think you will come across these temples in large quantity, in huge quantity, whenever you visit villages. In fact, there are many such temples belonging to this phase which haven't yet been documented. And you remember my very first slide yesterday was of one such temple which has now vanished. So this is another category wherein you have temples in almost each and every village in 13th 14th century, but the temple exteriors are very plain. The entire scale of the temple has also reduced. You can't even make out the different moldings on the temple exterior. So for example, over here, you remember me talking about the Khura, Kumbha, Kalasha, Kapotoli, nothing can be seen. It's just the band moldings in place of them. So you will see these kind of temples on a very large scale post 13th century in Maharashtra. So here you can actually make out, this is the 11th century Ambarnath temple on the right hand side, and look at this temple belonging to some 14th century or something. Stark difference in the appearance of the temple. Okay, and I have already touched upon this point yesterday because someone had asked me the question. But Hemadpanthi is the term which is quite often used while speaking about the temples in Maharashtra. But Hemadpant was a Yadava minister during 13th century. He is attributed, the legend says that he built many temples, especially the temples built in dry stone masonry. Unfortunately, the thing is that it's just a legend. This is not an academically correct term. It's a misnomer per se, and therefore we should avoid using this term if possible. Yeah, and that's the summary of what I just spoke about from temples of Maharashtra. That there are different specimens from different modes and different styles. The temples on borderlands tend to show similarities with the styles in adjoining regions, and it actually speaks about the artistic exchanges and the guild activities during this time period. And the basalt, so this is also an important point. Basalt is a principal stone used while building because that's the most available stone over here. And Bhumija is the dominant mode in the temples of Maharashtra. So you will see most specimens in Bhumija mode. So what is happening post? So this is not a part of our time period or the time period of the course, but it's just interesting to see some examples of post 14th century during the Maratha period. And you can see that they're actually making use of the earlier edicules or earlier elements, but arranged in a very different manner. So this is the Krishneshwar temple. It gives you, it actually more akin to Bhumija. But there is one more band added below it. You can see the Lata, Shukanasa, Shura Senaka, everything, the Bhumis, but the form of the Bhumis is also changing now. Now another example. Look at this Trambakeshwar temple. A combination of Shekhari, Bhumija, everything is there. So basically, obviously the people during the 16th, 17th century also saw these temples, right? These temples were in front of them. So the forms were coming out of these temples as well, along with what they saw in Rajasthan, what they saw in Gujarat. Whenever they, with that, I think it's time to stop with this short introductory course.